Hello there. This is my first show where I'm going to have a guest. My name is Folake Oluokun, and my guest today is Dr. Diana Kenoly. Let me tell you about Dr. Kenoly. She is an awesome, awesome, awesome ambassador for the United Nations for women and children. She's also the founder of Diana Kenoly Enterprises, and we're going to be talking about some real deal. If you're not ready, move aside, because this is heart to heart talk with a woman who has created an amazing, amazing mastermind. You know what the mastermind is? Is the collection of humans, brain to brain, to create a superpower. It's where you synergize with other people and become the very best version of you for this time. The name of that mastermind is Life Reconstruction Mastermind. I'm going to have her tell us the story behind it. I'm going to be asking her questions, and we're just going to be having a conversation. So I just want you to come into our space and get your cup of coffee or tea or something to drink, or just plain old water, and relax. This is just a conversation among friends. She's my very first one, but this is not going to be the last time I'm going to have her on my show. This show is to highlight women who have come through process. It's ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they are living every day transformed. They've not arrived, no, certainly not. But they are people who have survived and are thriving. They've gone beyond surviving. Dr. Kenoly, introduce yourself to us.
Hey, Dr. O. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction and for being your first guest on your show, on your YouTube channel, as you continue to develop content that will help us to live every day transformed. So really, really excited to be on here. And thank you for lending me your platform to be able to talk about the Life Reconstruction Mastermind. At the end of the day, I'm grateful for every achievement I have ever had. But I think the best of life for me has been my awakening to living my life as a human being. First, as I continue to pave ways and to walk through all of the opportunities that are before me, easy or difficult, challenging, for me, they are all parts of what will define me, as long as I choose how they're going to sit within my life experience.
Dr. Kenoly, this first few minutes now, you've scrambled my eggs. You talk about awakening. Are we asleep?
I think for me, for a long time, I was not living in my awakened self. I was not living with the self-awareness that was necessary for me to thrive through life rather than survive through life. I think the awakening for me was how much I have been surviving through life. And it took the transition of my mother that was my first awakening and continues to be the most defining awakening for me. And with the transition of my mother, also the realization that I was not in a relationship that was fulfilling.
You just dropped two bombshells for us. Woo! Talk about the transition of your mom. I'm hugging you now virtually about that because I get it. Yes, it is harder for adults to lose parents than kids because once you cross the kid parent fights and become friends,
Yes.
They got your back completely. When you have a good relation with your parent, especially your mom, which I had with my mom, they become like a second half of you. You almost talk to
Yeah.
them every day.
Mhm.
Yes, so I understand. And for those of you out there that have not developed strong relationship with parents, I want to encourage you. And if you're a parent, I want to encourage you to develop strong relationship with your children
Yes.
because it just calls for a better thing. No, I digress. So tell me, can you in like a few words describe your mom and the impact your mom has on you regarding this life reconstruction?
In one sentence, and this is something that she said to me, and she said it to me in a dream this year, right? And she said to me, live your life with no regrets, only lessons learned and wisdom gained.
Say that again, Doc.
Live your life with no regrets, only lessons learned and wisdom gained.
Well, Dr. Kenoly, do you have a T-shirt I can wear that on? Because I would
No,
love it.
I am beginning. This is going to be part of my merchandise that I'm going to have around the Life Reconstruction Mastermind.
I want one shirt.
It is yours. You'll get a shirt, a hardcover notebook, a pen, a water bottle, because it was so profound for me when she looked at me and she said, no regrets, only lessons learned and wisdom gained.
So the Life Reconstruction Mastermind is for us to learn lessons and have some wisdom. Would that be appropriate to say?
Yes, and the Life Reconstruction Mastermind is for those of us who are ready to get real about the business of living.
Get real about the business of living.
Yes, to get real about the business of living. Because for a long time, one of the things in the P.I.V.O.T framework, which we talk about in the mastermind, is people pleasing.
Well, Dr. Kenoly, I brought you on my show, but now you're calling me out.
But I really want to lock into that because it was such an awakening for me. And I want to preface that by saying that I had gotten to a point where I knew I needed to do something and I couldn't live life anymore the way that I was. And the first awakening for me was to join a mastermind with Danny Morell. And for me, he was the guide that I needed to begin to take me to the beginning of what life reconstruction looks like. And it begins with healing. And many of us are not ready to heal because of the familiarity and the comfort of victimhood.
Oh, run that by me again. Why should we heal? Are we sick?
We should heal if we have gone through something traumatic, because loss is real, transition is real, life is real.
Gotcha.
And how those things affect us or live in our body is also real. And so back to the point about people pleasing. It is not until some of the things that Danny wakes you up to or gets you to truly face is, let's go back to your conditioning and what life was like. And along the way, I also began to do my own research. Okay. And one of the things that I found was an explanation by a doctor called Dr. Gabor Mate. And he was talking about he was defining what people pleasing is and where it first can show up in our lives. And he talked about how it is an identity crisis. And so for me, the transition of my mother, I faced an identity crisis because my mom always reminded me who I was. And I didn't realize that every day talking to her 3 times a day or 4 times a day, she was always affirming me. But in my familiarity of this is my mom, who's now my best friend, not really realizing that she was doing something for me that nobody else could do but her. And so what Dr. Gabor Mate talked about was, if you think about a 1.5-year-old child, right? It's around this age that children begin to say no. And they're saying no because they want to maintain their identity. So for example, you might be telling them, hold a cup like this, because for whatever reason, you feel the way that they're doing it is not the right way. And you will hear them say no. Or they might be holding a pen with their left hand. And you tell them, no, put it in your right hand. And they'll say no, and they take the pen and do it the way they would like to. This is where we begin to understand that by design, we are supposed to live in our identity at all times. And so a child that young is reflecting for us that your identity begins here. Now, what happens is the adult around them begins telling them no. Or if you can think, depending on how old you are, when you were younger and you began to write with your left hand, there was a taboo attached to it. And so the worst case was you were literally beaten out of it, right? So what happens when you try to override a child when they are wanting to stand in their identity and wanting to do things the way they would like to? And sometimes it is hilarious because they will put on their shoes on the opposite foot and they're so determined that that's how they're going to go out. And they're so proud of themselves, right? But the adult who is perfectionist and who has the people-pleasing complex within them wants them, you're not going to shame me. So you're going to put it on like this. So what we do at that time, or what the adult does, is beat them out of their identity. What the child does is the child does not stop loving the adult. What the child does is the child begins to learn not to love themselves.
Wait, slow down. I thought you were talking about people pleasing. The child now doesn't love themselves?
Yes. So what the child does is they learn not to love themselves. They also learn that to make mom or dad or whoever love me, I need to neglect myself, or I need not love myself.
So the child begins not to love themselves. So there's no self-love.
They learn not to love themselves.
Correct. So they learn the art of not loving the self. That's number one.
And prioritize this new definition in their subconscious mind that for mom or dad to love me, I need to do what they say and not do what I want.
Is that why people pleasers seem to stay in relationships where it's dysfunctional because they're getting love in quote and they are not loving themselves?
Because this has been learned over years. So all that we're doing is reflecting. And I realized that that is what I was doing. Somewhere along the way, I learned that what it is much better to please someone else, to my own neglect. But here is the thing. With people pleasers, the downside is you begin to develop resentment. Because the person who wants you to do what they want, the way that they want, does not ever stop to think, this is not right. What about what you really want to do? And so it's not until, for the sake of a cliche, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
What does that look like? What is that anyways? Is there a particular thing that makes you sick and tired, or is it choice?
I think you get to the point where you're like, enough is enough. Because here is the thing with people pleasing. It can also manifest as you not having the ability to say no. Can also look like those people that are always kind. And you will hear people say they're always nice. Right? And
So
they're
always nice to everyone but themselves.
Exactly. But it is very rare that the other person begins to think like, you're so nice to me, but are you nice to yourself? Because they're so happy with the niceness and the kindness that they're receiving. And research has also shown that those people that are so nice, those people that have a problem saying no because they've developed this people-pleasing habit, let's call it that, they are also the most susceptible to diseases like MS and ALS.
Is it because the lack of self-love is now letting them attack their own bodies?
Yes, because when it's also about emotional well-being, right? It is where we learn to suppress our emotions and we do not express our emotions. Suppressing your emotions sitting in your body is going to develop disease and dis-ease.
Wait. You talk about two diseases. Am I right? Or you're saying disease
causes disease
and dis-ease? Can you give us definitions for that? For those two?
I don't know that I have very good
definitions.
Okay, so I can say this. The longer you suppress your emotions, it lives in your body. The longer you learn to suppress grief, it lives in your body and it develops into a sickness. You can either become depressed, you can either develop other issues within your body. You're a medical doctor, so let me not step in your area.
No.
Right?
The reason why I wanted you to define it is because the reason I have this show is to highlight people who have gone through, I call them my Ds. Disease is one of them. Divorce is one of them. Death is one of them. Death is one of them. Disappointment is one of them. And they move to discover. So when you talked about dis-ease and disease, I get it, but I wanted you to explain from your perspective, because when I say it as a medical doctor, they're going to think of one thing. But what you're telling me is, even if you don't have a tendency to have an illness, you being a people pleaser, having lack of self-love, will cause your body to start attacking itself, to the extent that not only are you not uncomfortable, you now have a disease that you never had.
Yes, that you have no business having. So now and it also begins to taint your own self-esteem and your own self-image. And as you know, we can never outperform our self-image.
Okay, let me put you on the spot. So you're telling me that when we destroy our self-image, the self-image we have will determine how we live, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How then can we repair that self-image so we can get back on track?
For me, it was going through the process of self-discovery. And the process of self-discovery is messy. Let me just say that. Let me begin by saying that. Because what you are doing is you are making up your mind to saying everything on the outside has not served me in really knowing who I am.
Yeah.
And for me to do that, I have to go inward. I have to go inside of me. It is also realizing that expressing your emotions is your right. And religion can feel like a weapon that is formed against you.
Okay. That last sentence, you need to explain.
Okay. So I think sometimes religion is very unkind when we suffer loss and the transitions of our loved ones. It is almost as if there is this rush for you to get over it, or this unspoken requirement that you should find joy in it quickly. Let me give you,
Stepping on
let
ground.
me tell you why I said that religion can feel, and I made sure to say can feel and not that it is, can feel like a weapon that is formed against you during your process of grieving. During a worship service, for example, right? We applaud those who are very expressive, especially emotionally. And the greater emotion you express, the seemingly spiritual you are. And seemingly is the evidence that the presence of God has landed, right? So we will allow people, in fact, we want people to be very expressive during a worship service or during a sermon, okay? I apologize for the noise. However, in their expression of emotion when they're grieving, we want them to tap out of that really quick. We want them to go in there, but don't be there too long.
So we want, it's like we're in a service and we want people to be like they're in a football game or a basketball game, all exuberant.
We want them to express their emotions.
Okay.
In fact, we are very glad when they do.
But then,
In fact, we say, let's not rush it. Let's just remain there.
okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
But I will always say your grief is yours to bear for as long as you want to live in it. And let me tell you what helped me with that. We see Jesus when his good friend Lazarus died. We see a grown man expressing his emotion publicly. And it didn't say that he cried. It says that he wept. So here is Jesus saying, express your emotions. And he never one time apologized for it.
So he was not a people pleaser.
That goes without saying.
Because yeah.
And every time he expressed emotion, so we see him after his friend has died, he is expressing emotion in a very public way. Everyone can see him. When he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, Father, if you can't take this cup, let it pass. Fear, the emotion of that he did not apologize for expressing. When he went into the temple and he overturned things, he was upset. He was expressing emotion. He never apologized.
So this reconstruction mastermind, in order to reconstruct, you got to overturn some stuff.
Yes. You have got to express emotion and recognize where you have suppressed emotion.
And okay. All right. So, woo, this is getting deep. Let me ask you. What do I expect? Like, give me an overview of this. Like, how many weeks are we talking about? How does it start?
So I think the best option, there are two options of the mastermind, and there's a reason why I did it that way. There's one that is self-paced, and I wanted to offer this option because there's some of us that are not yet ready to be in a group environment yet. Okay. I went through that, where as much as I took myself to group counseling, I in fact disliked that I put pressure on myself to go because someone else said, you need to go. So I wanted to give this option to say, you're going through this loss, you're going through this transition, it is real. Here is a way for you to go through it in a way that gives you back some control, that you can work through each of the guides from the 4 sessions.
May I stop you for a minute? I just want anyone that's listening to hear this. I'm a medical doctor, and this show is not giving medical advice. This is a coaching show. So Dr. Diana is a coach. She is not a therapist.
Yes.
I would like you to tell us about therapy so that people get it clear. Because coaching is moving, but therapy goes backward to dig. and do some
Right.
stuff. In coaching, there's an element where we ask some questions about your past, but we're not focused on your past. In coaching, we are like a football coach. We want you to win the game. The football coach doesn't care about how many games you've lost. They're concerned about you winning the game going forward. So I want to be
Okay.
clear.
Sure.
Dr. Kenoly is a coach.
Yes. So
not
I was going to get to that. Let me share what the second option. The second option is an 8-week option where we come together live, go through the session, and the following, you have 1 week to work through what we have learned. And the second week, we're going to come together and do what I call integrative coaching, which is we're going to work through and see how you're beginning to implement what you have learned, wisdom you have gained into your own life reconstruction. Back to what you mentioned about me being a coach and not a therapist. Very important. I am not a therapist. But one thing that I tell you in the very first session is that therapy has helped me. And I'm also very willing to share who I go to for therapy. So not just having Danny Morel help me walk through very practical things about life and recognizing what can healing look like for me. But therapy for me has been a game changer. And the emotions doctor, so at emotions doctor on all social media handles, is amazing. It allowed me to have a space where I could just come in and just cry if I wanted to, but also to have someone who is listening to me with the only agenda of wanting for me to navigate through whatever I'm going through in the moment, whatever emotions I was dealing with, so that I could get back to the business of living. Because emotions can be paralyzing. Emotions can stop you in your tracks like you have never been stopped before. And grieving a loved one thing that I realized is that emotions show up anytime. When you expect it and when you don't expect it. And so having someone that I could call to just walk me through the wave of emotion has been priceless to me. And so I have really benefited from her professionalism, her expertise, and her experience.
Dr. Kenoly,
Yes.
you and I have a few things in common. We both attach to two important relationships in our lives that have resulted in certain things, like both having the loss of our mothers, who we had amazing relationship with.
Yes.
And this life reconstruction is to help people deal with that kind of loss. There's also another important relationship that you and I share in common, is having been married and having gone through the pain of divorce. I have been divorced, 19 years now. And I truly, truly wish that I was aware of the pain I carry in my body. And I wish I was aware that I needed therapy and aware that I needed coaching. Because when I look at my life, I'm 62. And some things that I got stuck on without understanding what was going on with me. I want you to address specifically women who, because of people pleasing, decide not to self-love in relationships, especially marriage. I want you to address that. And the reason being, this people-pleasing thing is so deep that a lot of adults are operating on 25% of capacity just because of that. And they don't even know it. They're successful. That's the bad part of it. When you're successful, it's bad when you're successful in dysfunction. And there's a lot of us that are like that. I want you to address that.
That is a lot, Dr. O.
Just give us why.
Yeah. So
why, because you know, and the only reason I say that is a lot of people may look and say, yeah, I didn't have a good relationship with my mom, so whatever. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. But the one thing I know about a lot of women, and that's because the rate of divorce is so high. And there's a lot of people that are not divorced, but they might as well be. And they're going through that pain and it's spilling into our environment. And so we have all these dysfunctional people around thinking that their buildings are good and then they crash.
So this one is, when it comes to women and our relationships with men, I wish that there was more information and more resources in our time. I wish that that was an option. There is a lot more now, but I wish that women like us who have been through the experience would begin to talk a lot more, right? Because society conditions us for people pleasing. Religion conditions us for that too. And it is so much like an oxymoron what religion does. It tells you you have to submit. It tells you that you have to put the other person before yourself. Okay? Which really is words in the Bible taken out of context, but I'll get back to that. And then on the other hand, it says that Jesus came so that you might live life and live it more abundantly. A loving God would never want you to neglect yourself. A loving God would never want you to be in a relationship that is detrimental to yourself. He himself doesn't want that kind of relationship with you. So why would he? So it really doesn't make sense, this idea of you serve everyone else before yourself. The good thing about the time we're living in right now is we are waking up to the realization that our emotional well-being is the first priority. Because here is the thing. I would want us to begin to look at our lives and remember who we are. And what I mean by that is, what are you admired for? What are you respected for? What are the values that you have or that you carry that you are respected for? What is it that a lot of people seek you for? And how are you choosing to make positive comments and narratives about your life rather than picking on the negatives? And then here's the other thing. When we go through something like a divorce, right? If there's one thing that I would want to share is that don't give one negative person or one negative experience more airplay or more press than you give yourself and those who believe in you. You didn't fail at life. You only failed at a relationship. And for me, the awakening has been the failure was because I neglected myself and who I am. Because I had never taken the intentional and consistent practice of remembering who I am.
Who are you?
Oh my gosh. I am love. I am abundance. I am wisdom. I am a guide. I am goodness
I
and
am
mercy.
loving your expressions. I'm loving your expressions. I'm loving your expressions because in the Bible, Jehovah says, I am. And anything that comes behind I am is the identity he gives us. So when I heard you say, I am love, I am abundance, I'm glad of your answer, because some people would say, I am Dr. Kenoly, or I am, which I'm not saying you're not, but that's not who you are.
No.
You are love.
And I became clear about that because going through something difficult like divorce, and we can even use a verse in the Bible, Proverbs 4:23, that says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. And one of the things that I have learned about that verse is that the way I have always practiced it has been to guard what comes in, which is necessary, but also being awakened to the realization that what about those things that you don't want to leave you? Because there are some things that need to leave. But I became so clear that even though I didn't feel understood or loved, I was clear, I am not going to let love leave me. I'm not going to let hope leave me. I'm not going to let faith leave me. I'm not going to let abundance leave me. I'm not going to let kindness leave me.
So you are guarding the treasures of your heart.
Yes. It's that there is good about you. It's like, do we know who Diana is? What is my area of genius? Right?
Dr. Diana, I wish I had
Do
more,
I?
but here's what I need from you right now. And I know I didn't tell you this, it just came to my awareness. I have 5 sections I'm going to ask you questions of, and I want you to drop your truth about those 5 things. Okay.
Okay.
The first thing,
I will do my best.
I only want you genuine, because when you said the I am, you really helped me see that when I am love,
Yes,
I can't let anything that's not love pull me from love.
oh, and one more, I am grateful.
OMG, this is the month of gratitude,
Yes.
Thanksgiving, and that is an gratitude any way you cut it. Gratitude will pull you out of the deepest hole.
Yes.
Because you will always find the solution.
Yes.
And so,
okay, let's go with your question.
Okay, so I believe in a circle in which you are in the center of it.
Okay.
It depends on the circle you choose. And I believe in God like you do. And I truly believe that being in the center of his will for our life means that we take agency of our lives.
Right.
So let me ask you this. In terms of being, you're being like a creator, what would you say your truth is about being the creator of your life?
Ask that again.
In terms of knowing that God is creator, and he said, as he is, so are we. Because you're talking of reconstruction. To me, reconstruction is creating.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So for your truth, what do you believe that Diana, as a creator, does? Do you believe somebody else has agency over your life to create your happiness, your joy, or your future? Or do you believe that Diana does? And if you do, whatever you believe, what is the statement you would say to support what you believe about creativity and creation of our own lives?
I believe that life or our experiences throughout life are lessons that God would have us learn. I believe that it is our good work to reconstruct our lives in every season of our lives. If we can learn how to do this in our teens, in our 20s, our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, your life is yours to write. It is yours to reimagine as many times as you want to. And it is yours to reconstruct as many times as you want to.
Okay, so for me, what I heard in one sentence is this. Life is a lesson to be learned.
Right.
Your life is yours to write, reimagine, and reconstruct every season of your life.
Yes.
And that is a direct Diana Kenoly quote. Now, the second question is, the French say la coeur, the heart.
I don't speak French. Okay.
The heart.
Yeah.
The core. When we peel everything off, what is inside Diana? What is the thing that Diana will die for and live for? You know, what is that core, your core value that you're going to live for and die for?
My right to live.
And what is living?
It is the unrelented effort to always be as present as I can in my life. And I say it that way because I know how grief can paralyze you so much, maybe even bring you to your knees, that some days you don't show up. But living my life, and this is one of the things that that we unpack in the first session, is we need you to be present. Because you could go through this loss and choose to be silent, but we need you to be present. You have got to be active. So we have got to master the act of participation in our experience, no matter how hard that is, right? And the best way to do that is every day to wake up and determine two of three things or three of three things, right? Number one, what do I need and who do I need? And then number three, if you can, how am I going to show up today. I say that because experiencing loss or transition or trauma, or even successes, you may not know how to navigate through the day, but you can definitely wake up and say, what do I need? Who
So
do I
what do I need? Who do I need? And how do I show up?
Yes.
Okay, number 3. In terms of relationships, connections with people, because we have different circles, what would you talk about something that drives you in connecting with people, in connection with communities, in connection, because I know you do work as an ambassador for the United Nations Women and Children.
Right.
Isn't there something coming up this month sometime?
So my work as a UN ambassador it is really the blank check that God, the universe, presented to me so that I would determine what is the work that I want to be remembered for. Because the platform of the United Nations is so wide and it's so vast that we can find something that we are passionate about. And so this month being the month of November, we're getting ready to begin to go through the 16 days of, it's called the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls.
That is deep.
Right? Because in many ways, we can go through life feeling that we've survived, but not realizing that some of the things that we have survived have been violence against us in a very deep way, right? And it is, for me, it is also so much deeper than that, because it's also an awakening to, in what ways are we, or do we allow violence against ourselves?
So in terms of connection, what advice would you give to someone who says, Dr. Diana, are you telling me that I can't connect with people because I can get hurt?
No, definitely not. Like, even the laws of the universe tell us, as much as there is love, the polar opposite is true. You get to decide how you are going to move, and that is your power. That is your superpower. So,
same connection, I get to choose who I connect with.
Yes, why not? Like, that is a choice we're making anyway, consciously or subconsciously, right? So I am also very aware of the rooms that I go into and the ones that I don't go into.
Good. So let me reframe that question.
Okay.
How can I make sure that I have a guide, a rough guide, to know what connections I go into and not?
Something that has helped me is recognizing what is the need I have, and then looking at who do I need. Sometimes that has been a therapy session. So I will call the emotions doctor and be like, I need a session. Sometimes it's also knowing in the relationships that you have, there is going to be those people that I need someone just to be on the other side of the phone because today is difficult and I'm going through something right now, right? Sometimes it is also realizing that maybe the relationships that you have served their purpose. And one thing's for sure, that I know, and God is faithful, that even when you're going through a difficult time, the resources you need are also there.
How do you have the resources if you don't have them before the crisis? I want you to talk into, I'm pushing into a particular thing to say, you've had your therapist and your coaches, but aside from that, what relationships did you build? What connections did you build that helped you heal?
But so that is what I was referencing, is that we have relationships. And sometimes when we meet different people, we don't realize just how much they're going to be a part of our lives and how much they're going to serve us in a season that we don't even know is coming. So for me, I have had the benefit of you, Dr. O. I have had Coach BC. I have had Barbara Littles. And we all met because we were on a quest or in the pursuit of personal growth and development, which we all went to one place, or to the one that is doing it really well, John Maxwell. And so we joined the Maxwell Leadership Certification team. And that's where we all met and formed relationships, right? Formed relationships and continued to nurture those relationships.
Bingo. Keep going.
Formed relationships, nurtured relationships. And I was laughing to myself, I think a couple of months ago, and I was saying to myself, so all of the people that are closest to you are all people who are passionate about growing and becoming better versions of themselves, right?
Wow.
So that to me was a very interesting thought, but nevertheless, I have learned never to take for granted relationships. And even when my mom transitioned, realizing I was so glad that we were close. So glad that we built relationship. Just so grateful that I don't take any relationship for granted.
Awesome, Dr. Diana. The fourth thing is, what will you say your calling is for this season of your life? Your calling for this season of your life.
My calling? Number one is to remember that these pockets of difficulty that I have experienced are not the definition of the entirety of who I am. Is to also a call to action to me to remember that I have done difficult things before. We've been talking for maybe an hour now, not taking for granted that for the first 26 years of my life, I couldn't say 3 words. And I bring that up now because I suffered with a severe speech impediment. And whilst I went to the Benny Hinn crusade, the Reinhard Bonnke crusade, and nothing happened, I was like, okay, God, all these people are, getting their miracles. And it was the first place where I learned that I could breathe in a very different way to be able to speak fluently. The lesson from that was this, was not to look on the outside for the solution. The solution was inside me, and it was in my lungs. What I already had, what I was using, but not knowing that there is another way that I could use the same thing, can be used for so many different things. So within us, there is so much that we have. We are so resourceful that if we could begin to look inward, we would bring forth solutions to the things that we're complaining about.
Dr. Diana, I got to ask you this last question. And this last question is real pivotal, is what thoughts do you have for this stage of your life concerning currency, money? What are your thoughts about money?
My thoughts about money is that money is everywhere. I just have, and we have to get into the practice of understanding the value that we bring. And just give me one moment. Let me find something. I've been looking for this thing, but maybe it's here. One moment.
You know, the interesting thing about this conversation I'm having with Dr. Diana is I listened to her on Instagram with Barbara Littles talking about her mastermind, which I need you to go to that platform, is Diana Kenoly.com, and it's a mastermind for if you're going through stuff, if you've gone through any trauma, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a parent, the loss of a job, the loss of your career, any losses you might have gone through that is not helping you get to your next level. Now, you know, you're apparently stuck. You're spinning your wheels, but you're going nowhere. I want you to take time and listen over again to this broadcast and take a bet on yourself. Like I tell my friends, I know where I am now, but I know that I have not used 100% of the power that lies within me. Imagine for yourself, you have a phone, which most people have all over the world, and you look at your phone and it tells you that the battery level is at 25%. You know, if you continue to use that phone, before you know it, the phone is going to stop working, because 25% of capacity is close to zero. But when you plug in to a power source that is already within you, but you never knew was, you get to be 100%, and you can use that phone for a longer time at 100%. So the mastermind for me is the synergy that helps you operate at 100% of your capacity, which is as effortlessly as you making a bet on yourself. The reason I wanted to talk about money is because for me, for a long time, doing things like this was a hindrance because I couldn't see money as it really was. The most important commodity you have is not money, it's time. Anything that shortens your recovery time is worth the investment. Did you hear what I said? Anything that will shorten your recovery time. I have been divorced 19 years. Only 9 years ago did I bet on myself to become a better version of myself.
Yes.
I have an excellent relationship with all my children. They are different personalities. And this week is going to be pivotal for me because once I finish this broadcast, I'm going to visit with my oldest son, my grandchildren, and my daughter-in-law, and we're going to have a blast. And then I fly to Chicago to a wedding of my family member, a friend who's become a family member. I'm going to be flying with one of my sons. My other son is coming from New York and my daughter from Los Angeles. And this week, I'm going to be spending time with all my children in one continuum because I did the work. I'm still in process. The power of masterminds is so tremendous. The reason I brought Dr. Diana on this show, this is my very first show, is because I want to tell you that where we were when we met in 2015 is so far removed from where we are today. There's no way in God's planet that we could have done this in 2015 because we were locked, but we have unlocked. I didn't say we are perfect. No. We are progressing. And I want to encourage you, invest in yourself. I'm 62 years old and I'm investing in myself heavily. This mastermind will transform you. I promise you that. Look at me. I'm doing stuff for the first time. Am I scared? Of course I'm scared. But guess what? This stuff has to come out. You're never good the first time, but this is excellent. Why? Because the person I'm interviewing has walked through her process and is bringing you stuff that has helped her. She's grieving, but she's living. Yes. She's living and dealing at the same time and leading. So over to you, Dr. Diana, your views on money.
Okay. And so when you talk about money, here's something that I also awakened to. I realized I'm going to go through the grieving process. And with the transition of my mom, you know that it's for the rest of your life. It's just going to look very different as you navigate through, right? So, and the reason I say that it remains with you is because every year on their birthday, you're going to remember. That's why grief is yours to define the way you want to. Every anniversary of the date that they transitioned is going to be a memory for you. That's why it is important to own your grief and to define it the way that you want, right? And so I realized that because I'm going to go through this process is inevitable. I knew that I wanted to go through it this way. I wanted to trust the process and I wanted to trust my process. So if I say it in a different way for you, trust the process and trust your process. And the way that I figured out would help me was I needed to invest in a mastermind that would walk me through what healing can look like for me. I needed to invest in therapy because I knew I needed to manage my expectations and express my emotions, and also understand where those emotions were showing up in my body and what they were there for. I knew I needed to do that. So the investment in yourself is so key. I also knew that there was nothing out there that I had found that would help me navigate through these two, through the completion of a relationship or the ending of a relationship and the transition of my mother. For you, it could be other things. My request of you is not to minimize what you're going through, right? And so for me, it was important, and I needed a process that would help me to turn my pain into purpose. Wow. And I knew that I wanted to help other people.
Wow.
And so if I could create something that would help them, what would that look like?
Dr.
right?
Diana,
And
give us your website, because I gave them, I'm not sure I did it correctly, but give them the
okay.
website. And
So
I'm going to conclude after you give the
okay.
website.
So I wanted to say one thing about the finances before the website, if that's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
I was listening to Dr. Darius Daniels give a message, and he said something that remained with me. This is what he said: your vision will require talent that your insecurity cannot steward correctly. So whatever your vision is, there is talent still to be acquired, talent to be developed. The thing is that realizing what the insecurities are that you have that are not going to allow you to manage the vision is so important, because you want to remove any energy that is not going to be useful to the big picture of your vision, right? And so in conclusion, the website is www.dianakenoly.com. And you can follow me on social media at Dr. Diana Kenoly. That's it. Thank you so much for sharing your platform.
I want you to take note of something that this first show, I want to take note of this for those of you that are listening and came to the very end. This is someone who up to the age of 26 could not speak, could not articulate her emotions in words. And I must say, this interview has been full of gems. Trust the process. Trust your own process. Life lessons learned. My right to live. Remember these pockets, and I have done difficult things. I mean, there's so many phrases, so many things that I have.
One last thing: no regrets, only lessons learned and wisdom gained.
And you heard from the mouth of Dr. Diana Kenoly. My name is Folake Oluokun, otherwise known as Dr. O, Mama O, G Mama O. And this is my first show. I want to thank Dr. Diana for having faith in me, showing up at my very first show, and helping me break over that barrier of me doing these shows. I want to thank her for trusting me with her story. I want to thank Evan Carmichael for lighting the fire under me.
Yeah.
To be my best self. And Dr. Kenoly, I would like to invite you in the future for us to have another show where I'll be even better, because you helped me break my barrier. Now I can confidently invite people and say, hey, I got Dr. Kenoly on my show, so you want to come? Because a lot of people don't want to be the first. And your boldness in being the first is tremendous. And I just want to encourage people that you really want to follow someone who is doing what they say they want to do in a mastermind. I mean, this is someone who tells you, and it's a fact that she couldn't speak, and now she's speaking, and she's speaking live. We're doing it live, me and her, and we're going to post it. But do you understand how she had to get out of her comfort zone? And this reconstruction is great, and I can't wait to see
what it will do. Me too. I am excited. I am so excited. Like
I am, and I am, because I'm doing a show with you. I'm a talker, but listening to you, I'm like, who is this person showing up?
It is also realizing that. So for me, the first thing was And you know that I am a high C in my disc personality.
Trust me,
profile,
I don't even know how we're friends, but thank the Lord.
right? I am a high C, so very reserved, very guarded. One of the things that when you get to a point where you're like, enough is enough, I just woke up to this realization as I was going through the work, is that I am imperfect, and that is perfect.
Perfect. I think this is where we're going to cut it off, because I think me and you, we can go on for hours, and I gotta be able to upload this to YouTube and send the video to you. But Dr. Diana, I congratulate you. I wish you the very best in this mastermind. I know this is just the beginning.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. And hey, for you, if you love what we're doing on this show, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yes.
Just
Subscribe, support, follow.
Yeah, just follow me on social media. You can always find me. I'm the only Dr. O that has Dr. O right in the middle of her name. Falake Oluokun. It's Nigerian. Proud to be Nigerian, proud to be American, and proud to be British. I'm a mutt, and so is you. Over and out. Thank you, everyone. Let's
Thank you.
end that recording. Boom.